minds of the world's biggest leaders and economists for quite some time now. And why not? After all, this record high inflation is emptying all our pockets faster. Currently, there's a lot of debate about whether this inflation could have been predicted and prevented and how it got so out of hand. And a recent paper published in the RBI Bulletin highlights what exactly went wrong. Welcome back to Revolution Read On, a daily podcast where we break down one story from the world of business and finance. Click on the subscribe button to never miss an update from us. Here's your story for today. Well, a lot of economists believe that this inflation was inevitable. After all, the RBI and other central banks and governments had infused a lot of liquidity in the market during COVID in the form of low interest rates and stimulus checks. So, more money was chasing the same amount of goods, thus leading to inflation. However, the new paper suggests a different reason. The paper's authors, who belong to the Department of Economic and Policy Research, claim that unlike what was previously believed, their research suggests high liquidity did not lead to inflation, at least in India, when the economy has slowed down. At times like these, the demand is low. So, more money is not necessarily chasing the same amount of goods, the criteria necessary for demand pull inflation. So, what led to this sky high inflation then? The central bank's jaisa chal raha hai, chalne de attitude. You see, they thought the high liquidity, which had kept people financially afloat by ensuring that income doesn't fall and businesses don't close during COVID, could help sustain economic growth even when we opened up. But this became a problem when we finally went back to normal and the demand for things shot up. High demand plus high liquidity plus low supplies due to supply chain crisis equals the perfect recipe for record high inflation. And the longer the central banks waited to raise interest rates, the higher inflation grew. Until finally, central banks raised interest rates not once but multiple times to make sure we can control it. Now, this has kind of worked as our inflation rate has gone down from 7.79 to 7.04% after two rate hikes. But raising interest rates has led to newer problems. The whole world has woken up to the inflation threat at roughly the same time. So, central banks everywhere are raising interest rates. This, plus the high inflation, has caused the rupee to decline. How? You see, as the US Federal Reserve and other central banks are raising rates, more people are withdrawing cash from India. They will now get a higher rate of return if they invest it in other countries. Result: foreign currency is becoming rarer in India. And this imbalance, just like the imbalance between demand and supply, leads to a lot of issues. Supply of foreign currency is low while demand for it is high thanks to our numerous imports. Equals foreign currency getting more expensive. The rupee has hit an all time low of 78.29 as compared to the dollar. And this is a major problem for us as we import a lot of stuff, especially oil, which is anyway getting more expensive every day. So we need to boost the rupee. But how? Don't you worry, the RBI is working on it. It is selling dollars from our foreign reserves in the markets to make sure there's ample supply of the currency and the rupee doesn't lose its value. But the problem with this is that dollar reserves are limited. We've already come down to $596 billion dollars in reserves from an all time high of $642 billion dollars in September 2021. And this amount is enough for only 10 months of imports. The other way to boost the rupee: reduce inflation, increase interest rates, and strengthen the export industry. All of this we are already working on. Now, only time will tell if these policies will actually be able to help us reduce inflation and boost the rupee, or if we are truly in for a difficult time ahead. And with that, it's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for listening in. We'll be back tomorrow.